The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
And we are live to tape on the W2M Network for the Wrestling to the Max SmackDown Live review for January 23rd, 2018. I'm Harry Broadhurst, your host, joining you once again here. Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful evening or day as you're listening to this. Joining me this week, once again, apparently last week wasn't enough of having to deal with him 2 days in a row. I get to do so again this week. What's up, Bisco?
I get to torture you 2 days in a row again. This is becoming basically a weekly occurrence because Liz keeps on having stuff come up.
Yes, my best wishes are sent out to Liz. She's going through some personal issues right now. I won't put her information out there for everybody to know, but just know that hopefully everything will work out and Liz will be back with us next Tuesday night. That being said, Brandon, we have a go-home SmackDown to review, so what do you say we get to it?
Let's do it.
All right, our opening segment featured the masters of the Yep movement, Kevin and Owens and Sami Zayn. I almost said Kevin Zayn again because that would be the second week in a row I would have flubbed that up. Waiting for you to correct me.
Let's just refer to them like AJ Styles and call them Cammy. Or Seven, as I like to call them, in honor of Goldust.
God, you have to bring that back again. Ugh. So they talk about the fact that they're planning on walking out of the Royal Rumble as the first ever co-WWE champions. I mean, technically it happened in the women's division, but never with the men's heavyweight title. So I guess technically they're correct.
Yep.
They are interrupted by AJ Styles, who apparently disagrees with their assessment and says that he's going to not only take them out on Sunday, he's going to hurt them as well. This brings out Daniel Bryan after Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn point out the fact that a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown in his interview with Renee Young, AJ Styles said that he could beat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in the same night. Daniel Bryan comes out apparently looking to make said match. AJ Styles cuts him off and makes the matches himself because apparently not only is he the heavyweight champion, he's also the booker. A little bit later, Shane McMahon meets up with Daniel Bryan, and Shane doesn't approve of Daniel making the matches tonight, but Bryan says that he actually wasn't going to sanction those matches, that AJ made those matches. Bryan then questions if Shane is doubting AJ's abilities, and Shane says that AJ is not the one that Shane is questioning. Okay, let's first start with the opening segment here, and then we'll talk about the continuing feud between the GM and the commissioner on SmackDown, because it's apparently moved over from Raw now that Stephanie's off television on a pretty regular basis these days. Let's first talk opening segment here. Your thoughts on the mic work involved by Sami and Kevin, the rebuttal by AJ, and then the making of tonight's main events, plural.
I mean, it makes sense. I like how Sami and Kevin kept on using the vignette or the replays of everything that AJ has said in the past couple of weeks, and it's what you come to expect from Sami and KO. Good mic work from both of them there, and then AJ coming out and he. It was kind of weird because it seemed at first like he was going to say like that he wasn't going to do it, which, you normally don't see that from a face. Normally it's, oh yeah, I'll do it, no problem. And then Daniel comes out, and with the way he sounded, the way he was talking at first, I think he was originally not going to make the match, and then AJ obviously interrupts him and makes the match himself. But overall, it was a pretty good, opening segment. We've talked about this in the past on this show, But it seems like the talking opening segments are much more common now on SmackDown than they have been on Raw over the past couple of months, which is weird. It's like we're in this weird alternate universe where Raw is SmackDown and SmackDown is Raw. But it's kind of funny. This seems to be a running thing, and I hope they continue with it, at least for a little bit, because it's kind of funny to see, and it goes in both ways. It's not just, heel or face, of wrestlers running their mouths and then Daniel Bryan calling them out on it and making the match that they inexplicably make themselves.
Yeah, I don't know where I feel on this whole Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon thing, and a lot of people are of the opinion it's going to lead to Daniel versus Shane, which A is a waste of time and B is a waste of Bryan. But I don't know if I necessarily like them constantly having the bickering GM and commissioner role, much the same way that we saw on Raw for the better part of the last couple of years between Stephanie and Mick Foley and now Kurt Angle.
I mean, this one's a little different. Maybe it's just because of the players that are involved and my personal feeling about each of the players involved. But even without that, you still have the way they're writing it and the way they're portraying it. This doesn't feel and I've mentioned this before on the show, that this doesn't feel as clear-cut black and white as most GM authority figure trying to, screw over a wrestler or trying to help a wrestler in one way or another storyline plays out. You can easily make the argument to side on either AJ and Shane's side or Daniel and KO and Sami's side. There is no clear-cut heel. On a traditionalist level, you'd probably have to say that, at least for the wrestlers, KO and Sami are definitely supposed to be the heels. But in terms of the way they're portrayed, it's not as clear-cut.
I agree with that. I think that the big thing with regards to the portrayal of the gimmick for all guys involved here is that it's been kind of superfluous in the way that they're having the exchanging of the heel-face alignments there between Shane, Daniel, Kevin, and Sami, because there are a lot of people who are siding with Sami and Kevin. You said yourself you were amongst them, and I was as well during the whole Shane McMahon, Kevin Owens feud back in the September-October part of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many different ways that they could still go with it, but at the same time, if it is going to lead to Shane McMahon versus Daniel Bryan, I feel like that's a waste.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, especially if, that is indeed where, Daniel gets cleared and that's going to be his first match. There would definitely be a letdown in that scenario. I think what they may do, yes, I know Shane likes having his match and whatnot at Mania, but I would hope that they would do where, Bryan, gets cleared and he's like, okay, I want to face you for, control of SmackDown, but AJ steps in and is like, I'll take your place for Shane, and it's AJ against Daniel. That would be a match that I'm sure a ton of fans would love to see. So maybe they go that route.
Let's also not forget what happened on Raw 25 on Monday night as well, with the teasing of the continued tension between Miz and Bryan. I think that's a match that more people would be interested in seeing than Bryan and Shane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the issue with that is obviously the fact that Miz is on Raw, and there's not really, besides their previous few while Miz was on SmackDown, there really isn't any reasoning for them to face off against each other now.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the actual meat and potatoes of the show here. Let's start with our first match, a preview for the 2 out of 3 Falls Tag Team title match this Sunday at the Royal Rumble, as Chad Gable goes one-on-one with JeyUso. And I got 4 words for you here, Brandon. You ready?
Yep.
Chaos Mother-Lovin' Theory. Gable picks up the win in just under 8 minutes. With everything that's come out recently, and we'll get into predictions a little bit. I should probably have mentioned that we're going to do pay-per-view predictions after we wrap up our SmackDown review here. So if you want to stick around and listen to our pay-per-view predictions, you can. If you just want to listen to us cover SmackDown and then bounce out before the pay-per-view predictions, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So we will get more into pay-per-view predictions a little bit later on here. But this seems to be a sign of maybe that JeyUso thing might not have been as serious as everybody might have thought it was. Because you know the traditional theory is he who shines on the go-home loses at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, so, this would be, if you adhere to reverse momentum theory, then this would mean that the Usos are going to retain, which, I wouldn't mind. I'd be perfectly fine with it. I'm still not 100% sold on Gable and Benjamin yet. But, at the same time, with all the build-up for these two, unless there's some sort of shenanigans in that third fall, I would think that this would be the end of the feud one way or the other. So it would be surprising to me to see them do all this work for the Usos to just simply retain and move on.
Well, I think the other thing that's in favor of the Usos retaining here is they have a ready-made next set of challengers already squared up in the Bludgeon Brothers, too.
That is true, which I am very glad that they have not fallen by the wayside as they so often have in the past.
Backstage segment sees Shinsuke Nakamura having a conversation with, was it Renee or was it Dasha?
I believe it was Renee. I forget.
I was only partially paying attention to the Who. I was more listening to what Shinsuke had to say.
Yeah.
Do you remember Rock's boots to asses from a couple of years back?
Yes.
Well, apparently Shinsuke's getting a T-shirt that says knees to faces.
I really hope they do make that shirt in the same design as the boots to asses shirt was.
I feel like it could work.
It could. It clearly could. I can see it in my head already.
I could see it actually being sold on shopzone.com.
Yep.
But anyway, he's interrupted by Baron Corbin, who apparently is attempting to maintain some relevancy, and we set up a match between Corbin and Nakamura because this went so well in the spring/summer of last year.
I mean, yes, they didn't have the greatest of matches back then, but I still think that these two could work pretty well. It's an interesting kind of dynamic of styles between the two.
Do you want to go ahead and jump into the match here since they do have their match a little bit later on, and we can circle back to the women's match because, let's be honest, meh.
I mean, if you want to just do that, that's fine. I mean, yeah, this match was, pretty good. The one thing that I like and the way, and this is why I'm saying they could definitely build off of this with these two is, and I think, I forget if it was Corey, I think it was Corey Graves that mentioned it, for both of them. He mentioned how Corbin was a former Golden Gloves champion and Shinsuke has his MMA background. You could make them go very hard hitting and, bring in that, that clash of styles between the more, fist-oriented, upper body-oriented Corbin and the more kicks and knee strike-oriented Nakamura. And they did a pretty good job in this match. Personally, it wasn't, a 5-star match or anything like that, but you can certainly build upon what they did here.
Yeah, I'll actually state that I thought this match was probably at least as good as their best match from last year. And in my opinion, up until 205 Live, and we'll cover that match on that show, probably the best match of the week on WWE television until the 205 Live main event kind of overcame it there. That being said, I do want to talk about the finish here as Shinsuke has Orton set up for Kinshasa!
You mean did you say Corbin?
Shinsuke has Corbin set up for Kinshasa! When out of nowhere, and quite literally in this instance, Randy Orton comes flying in with an RKO to Shinsuke Nakamura. All right, I have not made my dislike for Randy Orton a secret at all. Anybody who knows me knows that I feel he's gotten bland, he's gotten stale, he's gotten repetitive, he's frankly gotten boring. That is one of the best-looking RKOs I have seen Randy deliver since the Evan Bourne one out of the Shooting Star a couple of years ago. That was gorgeous.
And the fact that he, everyone says RKO out of nowhere. This was, like you said, this was legitimately an RKO out of nowhere. The last time that I can think of an RKO that was just so shocking and so out of nowhere was when he was having his feud with Brock. And they had him invade Raw.
Well, there was one that I will give him credit for as well. Do you remember the Jinder Mahal celebration segment?
Oh, yes. Yes.
That one was pretty dope as well.
That was a good one as well. So he's got some good ones. I mean, it's something that's, I know you're not the biggest Randy Orton fan, and I agree that he's kind of getting a little stale because he's just kept the same gimmick for, 7-8 years now. He can do those things where he just comes out of nowhere and hits you with an RKO and it still draws a pop. Because it was so shocking to me, you see Shinsuke setting up for the Kinshasa and then all of a sudden you're just like, what happened?
What move was Shinsuke setting up for?
Kinshasa.
Really? No sell? Okay. Thanks.
What? Oh, okay. Fine. We'll go the Corey Graves route.
I love Corey's call over the move. That's why.
That's the one thing I'm so glad that Corey is on SmackDown now so that we get to hear that.
Let's be honest here. This match was the ending was done the way that it was done in order to protect Baron and Shinsuke from having to eat a loss going into the Rumble here. And I especially think that there was one particular person in this match who was very specifically protected for a reason, and we'll talk about that when we do our predictions a little bit later.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. If you adhere to reverse momentum theory, that holds true right there.
All right, let's go ahead and backtrack a little bit here by first mentioning that Ty Dillinger is in the Royal Rumble. If he comes out at number 10 again, I'm going to be pissed.
Why?
Because they've already done it once. It's not viable that he's going to magically luck his way into a number 10 2 years in a row.
I mean, it would kind of be, especially with the fact that Dillinger isn't really being used at all on SmackDown now, that would be something that would be kind of fun as a running gimmick for him every year, kind of like how Kofi is always looked at as the guy that's going to, do some crazy feat in the Rumble to stay alive, even though he never wins. It would be a funny little running gag that he always picks number 10.
I feel like he should pick number 9 this year.
And just start dropping each year?
Yes, like every year that he's in, he either gets one that's near 10 or right or on the opposite side of the spectrum. They're not exactly 10 anymore. And especially since, I don't know if you've seen the house show reviews lately or anything there, it appears that they're starting to groom him for something of a heel turn.
Huh.
So him not getting 10 in the Rumble could be played into as a catalyst for that as well.
That could be true, yeah.
All right. That takes us back to the women, although frankly, at this point, why bother?
I mean, you got the whole thing at the end.
All right, I like the Rumble hype at the end. I'm okay with the Rumble hype at the end. I especially like Becky Lynch trying to toss Naomi very shady-like. I thought that was fun.
And that was a nice catch by Naomi.
I thought that was a nice touch at the end there. But the match itself, Naomi versus Liv Morgan, frankly, was awful. Two very noticeable blown spots, and these two have almost no chemistry.
Well, I mean, Liv hasn't exactly been, doing much. Even when she was in NXT, she was basically just doing house shows for the most part. So, It's not like she's the most seasoned veteran or anything like that.
No, it's definitely going to be a case of Liv and Sarah Logan working with Ruby Riott in order to get more seasoning under their belts, too. Because Ruby's obviously the long-standing veteran of that group there, and I think the one that has the most to offer to working with girls like Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan in regards to their in-ring work, as well as their timing and their personality, making sure that they make their personality shine through.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the post-match brawl that happens, ladies getting tossed over the top rope and going out through the floor. Natalya noticeably does not get eliminated, which I thought was a nice touch.
Even though the first quote-unquote elimination actually went through the second rope.
I'm curious as to if somebody's going to get eliminated that way and then they're going to use it as an angle. Like they're going to go out through the rope and then the referee's going to assume they went out over the top and they're going to use that as an angle in order to try to work their way into maybe a triple threat for the title match.
We'll see.
That being said, all of the ladies are interrupted by the Queen coming out to the ring and stating that she's looking forward to watching that and that she wishes all of the women good luck, especially whomever wins. It's not going to be someone on SmackDown, so I don't think you need to worry, Charlotte.
Nope. Unless the other giant rumor floating around.
Don't throw that into the universe. It does not need to happen. She can be in the match. She does not need to win.
I know this, but you know Vince.
I know Vince is always looking for that almighty mainstream dollar, and I'm sure this person, I know what you're talking about. We'll discuss it more when we do our predictions. Yeah. I don't want to give too much away here, but I really don't want that to happen.
No one does, but I'm just saying, prepare yourself.
If this happens, I'm blaming you, just so you know.
This has been something that has been foreshadowed for a while now. Pretty much ever since the Women's Rumble was announced and that one photo got leaked.
Well, even before that, back to the Mae Young Classic as well. So,
that too.
Here nor there, let's go ahead and continue on with SmackDown, shall we?
Yep.
All right. New Day come out and cut a promo. It's your traditional New Day promo. Bobby Roode comes out, cuts a promo, goes to cut his catchphrase and gets interrupted by all three members of the New Day, which causes Corey to blow a gasket on commentary about the New Day going into business for themselves, which is hilarious. And then the entire crowd announces that Roode is glorious. Our match out of this is Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and the U.S. champion, Bobby Roode, taking on Jinder Mahal and Rusev Day. I missed Rusev Day on wait, weren't they supposed to face the Ascension today?
You know those types of things just get thrown out the window at random. I thought they were supposed to face them last week.
Weren't they supposed to? Hold on a damn second here. Poor Connor and Victor.
Especially, I don't want to talk about, other shows on the SmackDown show, but especially after what happened last night, and the rumors spreading after that, which, the Ascension knows all too well about a certain other tag team on the Red show. My stance still stands that no tag team should be called up from NXT ever again.
I know where you're going with that, but I think it's leading somewhere with the revival. So we won't go too far into depth in this because this is not a Raw review. If you want to listen to the Wrestling to the Max Raw review, check out Gary Vaughn and Paul Leeser with their review of last night's Raw 25. Or you can listen to me and Tony Acero covering it on the Raw Reaction as well. Anywho, this match goes 4 minutes because, of course, it frickin' does. At least Rusev didn't eat the pinfall.
Yeah.
But Aiden English did. And apparently
Aiden English is clearly going to be the weak link of that group whenever, if they ever do, they're going to break up at some point. But and they're still, albeit, not as strongly as they were before, they're still trying to push Jinder.
We talked about this in the group chat, in the Wrestling to the Max group chat. And if you want to be involved with that, make sure you find us on Facebook at facebook.com and by searching for Wrestling to the Max on there. And then as you become a regular member of the Facebook group there, we'll add you guys into the Wrestling Conversation group chat that we go through there. And one of the things that we talked about on the group chat there was that they really need to add a seventh match to this show, and we're thinking that it wouldn't be the worst idea to do a U.S. title rematch between Bobby Roode and Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, that's the one that's probably the most likely match for them to put in, because it's a title match, and those two can still be put into the Royal Rumble as well. I'm thinking either that or an Intercontinental rematch, since Reigns just lost it on Monday.
There is literally zero chance Roman works twice.
True.
Anywho.
Well, he did last year.
Wait, what now?
He worked twice last year.
Is it weird that I don't remember much about the 2017 Rumble?
You don't remember the gigantic boo that he got when he came out at number 30?
I also remember him being eliminated by Randy to win the match.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But who did Roman work earlier in the show? Oh, he was in the
KO.
title match, wasn't he?
Yeah, with KO.
That is right. With Jericho in the shark cage. Okay.
Yep.
Sami and Kevin come down to ringside for their various matches that they're about to have against AJ Styles, AJ already in the ring, when Shane McMahon arrives and bans Sami from ringside for this match and says that if he gets involved, he will be fired and lose his title opportunity on Sunday. The same goes for Kevin during Sami's match. Again, Shane running amucka. Not October, but that reference still fits, so I'm going with it. Styles and Kevin Owens. Okay. Like, I understand the why, but it does Owens no favors.
I'll agree with that, but I mean, that's the issue with matches like this, where you know that the first match is going to be a squash.
Well, it's not so much that it was a squash; it was that Owens has a legitimate back injury going into the show.
That's true. I think that's why they did it, because it was a way to still put KO into a match while protecting him by having it be a very short match.
That being said, our follow-up match between AJ Styles and Sami Zayn was damn good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
First of all, Styles just beating the crap out of Kevin Owens, while from a storyline perspective makes sense, from a character perspective does not.
Well, but see, again, that leads me back into what I've been talking about with this whole feud between the five of them, is that AJ, while, on a purely talking perspective and a purely, straight-laced, if you're just taking it purely at face value, he's a face. He's been doing some kind of heely things during matches against KO and Sami, like this.
Yeah, definitely a case of AJ going into business to try to take Kevin out altogether in order to not have to worry about both of them at the Royal Rumble. So, like I said, from a storyline...
To be fair to AJ with this, it is kind of along the lines of John Cena, where it's like, if you say you're going to do it before you're going to do it, then, I guess you're protected because you called your shot.
I mean, I guess so.
Because he did say, before the match, he's going to, beat them down.
I mean, I kind of understand where you're coming from that, but as I said, from a character standpoint, AJ going after somebody while they're injured doesn't make sense for AJ's character.
I agree with that. but that's the only, at least on a WWE level, explanation I can come up with.
Well, that being said, what were your thoughts of the actual match between Sami and Sami and AJ?
I liked it a lot. Some really good spots. It was kind of interesting seeing Sami reverse his signature and finisher for the win at the end.
Yeah, a little bit surprising to see him use Blue Thunder for the finish rather than the Haluva kick.
Well, he used the Haluva as a signature and then finished it with the Blue Thunder Bomb.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. It was weird to see him using the Haluva to set up the Blue Thunder you meant there, rather than seeing the Haluva be the end-all, be-all for the same match.
I guess it was kind of one of those things where, you see it in bigger matches. Normally you'll see it on a pay-per-view or something where the finisher isn't quite enough because your opponent is that good. So you have to hit them with another move.
All the same, that takes us to the ending thing that we see for the show, and that is Owens managing to make his way back into the ring and celebrate with Sami as Sami has his hand raised in victory, coming off of pinning the WWE champion in the middle of the ring for the second time in 4 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, Bisco, scale of 1 to 10, where do you fall?
I'll give this a 6. Some decent moments, but nothing too spectacular. I mean, the whole opening segment with, AJ, basically, putting himself into the match and whatnot, and the back and forth with Daniel and Kevin and Sami was good. And then the main event was good. But beyond that, nothing really all that memorable. I mean, the promo with New Day and Bobby was funny and cool, but nothing, especially for a go-home show, it was very underwhelming. I mean, I kind of get it because they were coming off of, last night and the hype and everything of last night, so, I honestly didn't really expect all that much from this one. We saw some more people announce their entrance into the Royal Rumble and all of this, and got kind of the final, run towards the Rumble, but nothing special.
I mean, I kind of get what you're saying there, but I think I disagree. And the reason I say that is because I actually really enjoyed this episode of SmackDown. And the reason I say that is because this episode of SmackDown had all of that Rumble hype that you didn't get from Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw was focused on nostalgia. Tonight's episode of SmackDown was a true go-home for the pay-per-view on Sunday.
True.
I'm going to go with a 7.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, maybe it's just because, I enjoyed last night so much. I
by and large enjoyed last night's episode of Monday Night Raw as well. I was the only one who enjoyed it when we did the review, actually. I gave it by far the highest rating out of the three of us. That being said, though, I get where some people were going to complain that it was too much nostalgia, not enough now last night.
I mean, it's to be expected. Maybe they shouldn't have planned it as the go-home show for, your second biggest, well, in my opinion, second biggest show of the year.
Which was what I was saying for a month before it.
What?
Which is what I was saying for a month before it even happened. That needed to be the week before, not the week of go-home.
Yes.
Especially since the week before actually fell closer to the 25th anniversary as well.
True. I think it might have been they screwed up on scheduling and put the event in Brooklyn on that date instead of the week before or something like that. Or they might have had some sort of scheduling conflict where, I don't know if the Nets or the Islanders were playing there that night or something like that. So there may have been a reasoning for it, but, I agree that they should have put it last week instead of this week.
All right, let's go ahead and Let's go ahead and put a nice little tidy bow on this. Did I mention my score, by the way?
Yes.
I think I said that I was giving it a 7. Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and add our one-word review, Brandon. What's the one word you would use to describe tonight's show?
I can't really think of one specific word to describe it. There were some good moments and then some that were kind of head scratchers.
Then I think the word you might be looking for is bipolar.
There we go.
I'm going to go with satisfying. I actually really enjoyed this episode of SmackDown here, and we got a couple of pretty good matches out of it to boot, in my opinion. Gable and Uso was really good, in my opinion, for what it was. Shinsuke and Corbin was better than it probably should have been, and that main event was the best match on WWE TV until 205 Live happened.
Yeah, I mean, I like the main event a lot. I would have to agree with satisfying, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you would have liked a little bit more. I mean, yes, you got some of the build, but, one of the things, and I know this is very cliche, but I'm honestly surprised that we didn't get, we got it for the women, but I'm honestly surprised at the end of SmackDown tonight we didn't get the all-out brawl, Rumble preview in the middle of the ring for the men.
And I can agree with that. I understand where you're coming from there, but like you said, we got it from the women there, and they decided to give the focus at the end of the show to the title match rather than the men's Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
It almost feels like they're of the opinion that the Rumble match, the men's Rumble match, at least sells itself.
Well,
because
yeah.
There was very little in the way of hype for it during Monday Night Raw, and there was very little in the way of hype for it during tonight's episode of SmackDown as well. The only thing we really got for the men's Rumble tonight on SmackDown was the New Day and Ty Dillinger announcing their entrances.
Which, the one thing, and I know a lot of people have been saying, yesterday and today that there are so many spots still open, and they're shocked at how many spots are still open. I like that aspect because that's one of my favorite things about the Rumble, and which is what I was disappointed in last year, is not knowing who's coming out next.
Yeah, there's a certain level of interest in the amount of surprise entrants, especially if they're people that we don't necessarily expect and or people that aren't announced in advance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go ahead and do our Royal Rumble predictions. If you were just interested in the 205 Live or in the SmackDown Live review, excuse me, I'm getting my shows mixed up. If you were just interested in the SmackDown Live review, thank you for listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back in a little bit with 205 Live. For those of you continuing listening here, Brandon and I are going to go ahead and do our predictions for the 2018 Royal Rumble here. We'll start with the tag matches, then do the heavyweight title matches, and then we'll do the two Rumbles last. That work?
Yep.
All right, let's start with, since this is a Raw podcast, let's start with the...
You mean SmackDown?
It's Monday night all over again, which is ironic. It's actually Wednesday here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's midnight. What do you people want from me? Since this is a SmackDown podcast, we'll go ahead and do the Raw matches first for each of these.
Okay.
So we'll do the Raw tag titles first. We'll do the Raw heavyweight title first. And then obviously the men's Rumble gets the main event spot because men's Rumble. Yep. And that's what'll be the main event of the pay-per-view. All right, let's do this here. Raw tag team titles see Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins defending against Sheamus and Cesaro.
On one hand, I feel like they're still gonna want to push, Jordan and Rollins and, this semi-Shield reunion, even though you can't really call it a Shield reunion anymore. But at the same time, with what they did last week and them, not exactly being on the same page, I could totally see Sheamus and Cesaro winning them back. The big X factor for me is, I know, there have been rumors of Jordan being injured. Obviously not enough to take him out of the match, but the fact that he may be a little banged up may influence what happens. I'm gonna go with Sheamus and Cesaro here.
Yeah, I'm going with the bar as well. I think that we're eventually going to get to the point where we're going to do Rollins and Jordan at WrestleMania in a singles match in order to kind of play off of what the original plan would have been with Ambrose and Rollins, if you believe the rumors. Mm-hmm. So I think that this would be the opportunity to take the titles off of Jordan and Rollins and get them onto the bar in order to set up a WrestleMania-type feud with either the Revival or possibly even the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson.
I think more than likely there would be the Good Brothers, because I feel like at this point, while a lot of people were hoping for them to be heel, I think they're going to be a face faction for a while. And I don't think they're going to turn either the Bar or the Revival at this point.
SmackDown Tag Team titles see 2 out of 3 falls as the Usos defend against Gable and Benjamin. Like I said earlier, Brandon, I think that the Usos have a ready-made challenger in the offing in the Bludgeon Brothers here, whereas Gable and Benjamin just don't have enough momentum as a team. I'm picking the Usos to retain.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Prior to this week, I would have said I think they would have gone with Gable and Benjamin, but after this week, I think they may stick with the Usos. It's disappointing. I mean, like I said before, I'm not completely sold on Gable and Benjamin, but the fact that, the fact that they've been built this highly and they're not going to get anything out of it is a little disappointing, unless we get, as a result, kind of like what we were talking about with Rollins and Jordan, maybe Gable turns on Benjamin or vice versa, and we get those two facing off in a singles match at Mania or somewhere down the line, and that gives Gable that singles push that they were talking about him getting when Jordan left.
So you're going with the Usos as well?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on here to the heavyweight title matches, and we'll start with the Raw heavyweight title, the triple threat between Strowman, Lesnar, and Kane.
I so want to say Strowman, but I just they've spent a year mapping this out. I don't see them changing course. Lesnar's going to retain.
While I don't think Lesnar's opponent comes out of the Rumble.
No.
I do think that since Raw has the Elimination Chamber match next month, that we will see the winner of the Elimination Chamber being the man to step up and challenge Brock at WrestleMania.
Yes, I think the main Elimination Chamber match will be a number 1 contenders match.
Yes, likewise. And that being said, I think the winner of that number 1 contenders Elimination Chamber match will go on to face Lesnar at WrestleMania. Ideally, I'm with you. My heart is saying Strowman, but my head is saying Lesnar, and this is going to be one of those instances where I go with my head.
Yep.
SmackDown title is on the line in a handicap match as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, I'm not calling them 7, you shut your mouth, take on AJ Styles. All right, so you went first on the Raw matches. I'll go first on the SmackDown matches like I did for the tag match here. I don't see it. I don't see co-champions, and I really don't see co-champions now that we know what we know about Kevin Owens. AJ Styles retains, getting his win back on Sami from tonight's episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think AJ retains. I would honestly like to see them do that at some point, just to see how they would handle it between New Day talking about it and now Kevin and Sami talking about it. it would be interesting to see them do like a co-champion for a singles and do a Freebird rule for a singles championship. Not sure how well it would work, but you could at least test it out for a little bit.
Well, not to mention another thing with that regard too would be that you could also have the two partners feuding afterwards on the basis of one of them being the one responsible for losing the title.
That is true. Yes.
So that would be another way to go down the road here. So we both agree that AJ retains.
Yes.
I don't think we've disagreed on a match yet, Brandon.
No, we have not.
I got a funny feeling this ain't about to change. I have a very strong feeling this ain't about to change. Women's Rumble match here.
See, this one I'm torn on. Like we were talking about before, now that we are into the predictions, I can talk fully about what I was talking about before. The rumors, and apparently Triple H played very coy about it during an interview at the Empire State Building promoting Raw 25 yesterday. When asked about Ronda Rousey, he said, "You'll have to wait and see." So I would not at all be surprised if Vince McMahon, if she has signed, pulls the trigger right away, wanting a big payday at Mania, and has her win the Rumble. Not to mention that, Asuka not winning it would not count against her undefeated streak. So you could still keep the undefeated streak going and still have Rousey win. That being said, while I'm very torn on this, and I would not at all be surprised if Rousey did win, I still think that Asuka will win. I do not think Rousey will be here. I think they'll save it for Mania.
We talked about this without mentioning her directly by name during the SmackDown review here, and I agree that the elephant in the room in this match is Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
That being said, even if Ronda is in this match, she has absolutely no business winning it, and the reason for that being that I don't feel like it would be right for the first ever Women's Rumble match to have an outsider come in and take the thing when these women with the company right now have been working so hard to build them up to the point where the Women's Rumble match is possible in the first place.
I agree with that, but look at how they've mishandled previous firsts in the women's division. Most importantly, the Money in the Bank debacle.
I actually thought that was a clever finish. Regardless.
It completely undermined the whole women's revolution thing.
Well, then she went and got it back in an actual ladder match, so it all worked out.
Still with help from Ellsworth.
We're digressing. Let's go ahead and get back to the prediction here.
Okay.
There's nobody ready for Asuka. And
I'll agree with that.
And if they're smart, they'll have her steamroll her way to the title. And then you can build up credible challengers in order to come and face her and get that opportunity to prove that they are the one that's going to hand Asuka her first loss. Right now, Asuka still needs to be steamrolling people, and that stands just as strong for the Royal Rumble match as it does for in a singles match there.
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly when it comes to just looking at it purely on a WWE level. I will say this in terms of Asuka. If she does end up winning the Rumble and winning the title at Mania, she needs to hold it for a whole year until I do not want them ending the streak anywhere smaller than Mania.
I could see that. The only other possible place I would accept it is SummerSlam, depending on who they have built up as a challenger.
Yes. But this is my key. I mean, I'm still picking Asuka overall, but whereas you said even if Rousey, while I agree that they should do this, if Rousey is in the match, she is the odds-on favorite for me. If she's not, then obviously Asuka's winning it.
I would say that if she's in the match, she's the favorite. I don't think she should win, though.
I agree with that, but you know she will.
All right, so I have a funny feeling that based on the conversation we had a little bit earlier in the SmackDown review, we might agree on this one as well.
Okay.
I have stated since Money in the Bank, and then even more so since Survivor Series, once they actually stepped up their interactions with each other on SmackDown. The main event for WrestleMania for the SmackDown Heavyweight title match is going to be AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Uh-huh.
They pull the trigger here with Nakamura winning the Rumble. And then having to defend it against somebody at Fastlane in the beginning of March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you there. I think we can both agree that I would say there's a 99.99% chance that it's going to be someone from SmackDown, because with Raw having the Elimination Chamber, which I would assume Brock will not be at, unless they're going to have the Intercontinental Championship match be the main event and the Elimination Chamber match, I would think that the main event would be a number one contenders Elimination Chamber match, which I would assume Reigns would win. So in that case, SmackDown has to have the Rumble winner to get their main event for WrestleMania. And other than maybe, and even this is a big stretch maybe, especially with how he's been used recently, the only other person that I could even see potentially getting it besides Nakamura is Corbin. The only other person that I saw which would be an interesting surprise, and I'm sure he will be a surprise entrant, but I do not think they'd have him win it, is Ziggler. But yeah, I think Nakamura's got to be the odds-on favorite here.
And that's going to officially wrap up our predictions here. What do you say we stick around and do this 205 Live business, Bisco?
Yep.
All right, so for our executive producer, Sean Garmer, and my co-host for the evening, Brandon Biskobing, I'm Harry Broadhurst, thanking you for listening to the Wrestling to the Max SmackDown Live review for January 23rd, 2018. We'll be back shortly with the 205 Live review and all kinds of shenanigans afoot on that show. Oh, you don't want to miss this one, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be right back at you. You're listening to the W2M Network, available online at W2Mnet.com.